Our next speaker, Marianne Dee, is from the School of Computing at University of Dundee. She's also a research assistant for the SIDE project, which is Social Inclusion Through Digital Economy. And Marianne's going to be talking about working with older adults. We'll give her a clap too, will we?
Good morning. My name is Marianne Dee, and I work on the Social Inclusion Through the Digital Economy project at the School of Computing at the University of Dundee. And this morning I'm going to talk to you about including older adults in the digital economy. And the captioned cartoon that I've put up there is really a reminder to the audience that technology means different things to different people. And explaining the benefits of new technology to someone who has limited or no experience or concept of it is extremely difficult. We work inside at trying to understand how people use technology and how they're prevented from using technology. SIDE at Dundee is specifically looking at accessibility activities and the user's perspective. And Dundee School of Computing has a long tradition of working around human-computer interaction and particularly about working with older adults. We have a drop-in user centre where older adults come in 4 mornings a week for 2 hours, bringing their various technologies and learning how to use them. They drop in and they drop out. It's not a class. It's usually led by the older adults themselves. And all of our research involves users. We work with users from the ideas stage. The driver for this work, funded by the Engineering and Physical Sciences Research Council, is the growing number of older adults in the population. This is a diverse population. There's nothing homogeneous about it at all. It spans 3 generations. They have different interests, different educational backgrounds, different levels of income, different levels of health and fitness. On the one hand, they represent some of the poorest people in our communities, and on the other hand, there is a small but significant number of people in those age groups, in that population, who have significant financial clout and are specifically targeted as consumers. At the same time as the growth in the population, and there is a significant growth in and rapid change in technology and in the application of technology, more and more services, facilities and businesses are being offered online. This is obvious, it's efficient, it's cost effective, you can reach more people more effectively, but at the same time it discriminates to a certain extent against many older people who don't have access to that technology. And of those people that do have access to that technology in this age group, many of them are not able to upgrade it and don't have any kind of backup support if it goes wrong. And so to them, a lot of the information that they're receiving can be as a foreign language. And if they can't understand it, they give up and go elsewhere, or they do without. So I thought it might be useful to remind us all of what it's like to be in that situation. And many of you may well be aware of Ben Schneiderman's work and Catherine Plaisant, who identified back in 2005 the 10 plagues of the information age. And I think, I'm not going to read all 10 of them out, but I think I'd like to identify the first 3 as being really crucial. I don't know many people who have not suffered that feeling of anxiety and stupidity when they haven't been able to use the technology. And for me, it often happens under pressure, when I'm under stress, when I think I'll just do something really quickly and I can't understand the form, or I'm halfway through it and it demands something that it hasn't told me I'm going to need to be able to fill it in the first place. So 3/4 of the way through, I have to stop using it. The frustration of being and feeling stupid in a queue of people when you're trying to get your library book out or when you're trying to do the self-service at Tesco's is an equal scenario. In addition to not having the skills, people will watch and see how technology is used by other people. And technology is not a very sociable activity. You only have to be at a conference like this to see how individuals engage lovingly with their latest device and do not actually socially interact as much as they might have been before they had those devices. A friend of mine recently put a picture up on Facebook. It's an issue, big issue with her, of a couple in a cafe having a coffee with a beautiful toddler, and both of them absolutely engrossed in their latest mobile device. And how many of us have emailed our colleague in the same office when we could have actually gone over and spoken to them? We've all done it, and we will continue to do it, but that has an impact on how people see technologies. The biggest issue is the information, the digital divide, and the people who don't have. And there is a direct correlation between education, low skills, and lack of access to the digital economy. I work with, much of my job is working with older adults, and this is not an uncommon reaction. And this particular user, who referred to the fact that everything seems to refer him to bloody www.somethingorother.com, was actually talking about something quite serious. Some people were referring to recipes on the Hairy Bikers program, but this guy was talking about the weather, the bad weather that we had for the last couple of years, and how they had to be referred to the internet for early warning flood systems and for heavy snowfalls, and what they should do in those circumstances. And these are big issues. Now, we know that this can be useful to alert lots of people, but there are a whole load of people out there who feel very left out. In addition to that, people persuade themselves by what they see and make informed decisions. So they may well have the skills and the money and the ability to access information online, but they actually don't want to. And this particular person, I put this photograph up of people on mobile phones, spoke about the tyranny of a technology that can track you down anytime, anywhere. He wouldn't have anything to do with it, and he was just talking about the mobile phone. So this is not going away. The Office for National Statistics revealed in February this year, 65.5% of people aged 75 and over have never used the internet. 33.4% of people aged between 65 plus have never used the internet, and 15% of people aged between 55 and 64 have never used the internet. And I'd like to bet that those people who say that they had used the internet in those age groups may well have used the internet, but to what extent and how often, and do they still use it? There is still an issue out there. If you talk to any of our undergraduates, they're absolutely convinced that this is a short-term problem, that when this generation of older adults dies, it's not going to be a problem. They're not going to have problems with technology when they get older. The issue is really, it's not a problem of ability, it's a problem of the technologies. Technology is going to continue to change, and as we grow older, our ability to adapt to change will also affect how we can access new technologies. Today's older adults are not stupid. There are issues with the technology and the interfaces. A quick slide just to say, we know that technologies are of huge advantage to everybody if they can engage with them. It's not called the digital economy by accident. You can save money. It can give you access to all kinds of information that, again, saves you money. It can give you access to knowledge and to skills that save you money and save you ways of getting to access to your own money. It can give you independence. The more you can access help and support from outside while you're still in your own home because you've got a health issue or because of your age, you have more control and you have independence. There's no doubt that new technologies offer bonuses in accessibility, voice-over software, magnification, etc. A lot of older adults we talk to are delighted with mobile phones because they make them feel secure when they go out traveling. And a lot of them are very happy to take them when they drive at night or they go on long trips. And I was interested in the statistic yesterday from Northern Ireland that said 92% of the people own a mobile phone. When we talk to our older adults, they do own mobile phones, but they generally keep them in the drawer for when they go out in the car on a long trip or at night, or they keep them in the car. So be careful of the statistics and how people use them. Older adults use technology in a very different way in many cases. The ability to stay in communication with a dispersed population of relatives and family, which is happening more and more these days, the family is much wider dispersed globally, never mind nationally, adds a huge bonus to people's lives. And of course, a lot of older adults work in voluntary work, and the voluntary sector waxes lyrical about the effect that new technologies allow them in terms of saving money, in terms of contacting people, keeping in touch with people, finding out expert needs and knowledge, but also saving them on postage and communications. So at SIDE, we work around how do we remove barriers to digital participation. 25 years ago, technology designers began to realize that they had to think about accessing technology from the user's point of view, but they were forced to do that by looking at particular groups, driven largely by the disability rights movement. But when the developers began to look at technologies from the user's point of view, it had a very positive, successful impact for all of us. In a real-world scenario, the dropped curb was designed for people with wheelchairs. And of course, it's good for prams and pushchairs, bicycles, shopping trolleys, suitcases, roller skates, skateboards. Everybody benefits. In the virtual world, the same impact happened with captions and subtitles, with voiceover software, magnification, remote controls. Everybody wins. But we're now moving away from looking at particular groups. Instead of looking at particular groups, we're interested in ability-based design, in what people can do. And I introduced this logo just to show you the difference between the logo on the left is a very familiar site for disability, but it's about something lacking, disability. The logo on the right emphasizes ability and power and control and success. We're shifting in the way that we look at ability. None of us have abilities that are static throughout our lives. From toddlers through to adulthood and older adulthood, our abilities change. Environmentally, in different environmental situations, our abilities change. So if we're in a moving car going around countryside lanes, we have difficulty accessing our touchscreen device. If we're in the bright sunlight, we have difficulty reading our touchscreen device. And the same, what we're arguing is that we should be looking at what people can do and working around developing the technologies that will help that. So at SIDE in Dundee, we have a pool of over 700 older adults that we work with. The pool tries to represent the widest population. We involve them in coming in and looking at the work we're doing, and they assess the usefulness, the usability, and the accessibility of the work that we're doing. We have representatives from the whole population as far as we can, and we're looking at understanding the skills and abilities of individuals and how they use technology. And I thought it would be useful to talk about what they do. And they come in and they test various products or test ideas out. They fill in questionnaires, and we involve them in research on all sorts. We record them, audio record them, video record them, put them up on the internet, observe them using eye tracking information, eye tracking data. And one of the studies that we're doing at the moment is looking at the premise that younger adults are better at searching the internet than older adults. We subjected a whole range of users to come into the lab and do usability studies. We did cognitive measures, which were things like working memory, short-term memory, fluid intelligence, crystallized intelligence, speed of reaction. And then we asked them to find information on the internet. And we're able to prove that there is no direct correlation between age and ability at searching the internet. There are differences between different individuals and different individuals' abilities. So this research is getting quite interesting, and what the researcher is now doing is he's bringing in around about 100 people, young people and old people, and gathering data on individual abilities. And what the aim is to optimize the person's cognitive capabilities while compensating for the weaknesses by using best practice techniques in the development of information on the internet. Very exciting project that I'm involved in at the moment is working with care homes, and we're looking at the built environment and how it impacts on people's well-being in care homes. Can it enhance or impede activity or inactivity? And this is one of the biggest issues of people living in care homes, how active they are or how static they are. And we know that the built environment has a major impact on that. So we're using technologies to encourage physical activity in older adults, but the users that we're working with there are the residents, the care home providers, the care home workers, and the people who visit the people in the care homes, the families, the friends, the colleagues, the neighbours. We're looking at social networks and why older adults won't use social networks, and we have a pretty good idea already, being an older adult myself, but it's very interesting, and we're gathering data at looking at how we can adapt social networks and feed into giving people access to that. This particular touchscreen accessibility research is researchers working with people with low vision, slight motor impairment, so a slight tremor, and low mobility. And he's looking at how they interact with touchscreen devices. He worked with them using an iPod and a tablet, and he worked with them in the lab, and then he sent them out into the field to take the devices home, and he gathered the detailed interaction models of their touchscreen activity. The idea being that when you have conditions like this, it's not static. You have good times, you have bad times, you have really great big dips. It can be related to time of day, it can be related to medication. And again, environmentally, this would have an impact on us in that car going around country roads, not being able to work our touch screens. He's using something called shared user modeling in order to produce devices that will respond individually to persons' needs at any point in time, so they don't keep having to change the magnification or the touchscreen application. We're also looking at what older adults are actually using on digitally, and we're gathering that together and filming them and getting them to talk about what they enjoy about technology. We're really building on the power of story here and the impact that peers can have to peers. One of the biggest issues is there are so many choices around. People think, I don't want to know, I can't choose. How would I know what to do? And they don't know the language. So if you start talking to them about Skype, they've heard about it, but they don't want to know about it, and it's frightening. But if you can actually show people using Skype, and one of the things we're discovering is that if they don't use it themselves, they will use it with other people, and they will listen to other people who have similar experiences and similar cultural references. And ironically, we are using a website to do that, so you can ask me about that later. We're working with Google on how people evaluate the health information that they find on the internet. A lot of older adults go on the internet, we all do probably, but how do you work out whether it's valid information or not? So we're using semi-structured interviews and bringing people in to look for information, and we're using eye tracking to observe what holds their attention, and then asking them how they quality assess what is trustworthy. So there are many whys as to why you should involve elders, but how do you do it? They're out there. They're absolutely eager to be involved. They're already organised. They're in lots of groups. They're the busiest population I've ever come across in my life. They're very active in voluntary groups. They're in churches. They're in walking groups. They're in the University of the Third Age. They're in pensioners groups. They're in community centres. They're in carers groups. They're in voluntary groups of all sorts. They go to lunch clubs. They support people right, left and centre. They do childcare. They're out there waiting to be invited to have their voice heard into the services that you're offering. So how do you deal with people's fears and anxieties? Do you test your online forms with people? If you're going to offer services online, how are you going to ensure that people can use it and have equal access to it? And here's a final quote from one of our users. You know nothing about us without us. Know your users, understand your non-users and your refusers, instigate perhaps proxy users somehow, don't discriminate against people who prefer people, and make your machines people-friendly. Thank you.